Morning, everybody. We are so grateful that you're here, and I know I'm grateful to be here. My family, one of us tested positive early in the week for COVID, and so we sort of went into lockdown mode. And because of that, I wasn't sure if I'd be able to preach today, so I have invited Andrew Osley, who's around here somewhere, and he's going to preach for us today. Just because I didn't know if I would be here, be available or not, but I tested negative. We all tested negative this morning, so we're grateful to be here. But thank you for your prayers. Many of you sent things to us, so we're grateful for that. So let's stand together and let's worship our faithful God.
See the light of day, but I am persuaded beyond all hope you won't let go of me. I stake my claim on every word you say. You will not be late. I will sing through fire and thunder, 'cause you are on my side. I trust you with my life. I know my story, it isn't over, even against all odds. You are a faithful God. You're a faithful God. The darkest of weather, though I can't see, I still believe you're good. So I'm moving forward through crashing waves. I know I'm safe with you. You hold my life, you hear my cry with every breath inside. I will sing through fire and thunder, 'cause you are on my side. I trust you with my life. I know my story isn't over, even against all odds. You are a faithful God. That's who you are. You are a faithful God. I am convinced that your promises will hold together, and I will dwell in the hope of your love forever. I am convinced that your promises will hold together, and I will dwell in your love. I will sing through fire and thunder, 'cause you are on my side. I trust you with my life. I know my story, it isn't over, even against all odds. You are a faithful God. That's who you are. You are a faithful God. Oh, you're a faithful God. Your grace is enough, more than I need. At your word I will believe. I wait for you. Draw me near again. Let your spirit make me new, and I will fall at your feet. I will fall at your feet, and I will worship peace and that I'm never alone. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers. Only you provide, 'cause you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. He's so unexplainable, I can hardly think as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love, love, love. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am.
What a beautiful way to sum up why we're all gathering together, right? We are loved so deeply, it's amazing. Hey, welcome to Fresno First. I'm here to give the announcements today, and I just can't say, whether you're a member, first-time guest, returning, online, welcome home, right? What a loving church we have. I just can't say enough about it. We are a praying church, right? Your prayers matter, and your prayers have impact. As we can see, if you guys follow some social media things, we have members who are telling their story of your prayer, how it's helping their lives. And we meet every Sunday over this way in the worship or the fellowship hall, cafeteria area from about 9:30, 9:50. So if you have something to pray about, please, please, please let us know. We want to pray for you. We want to pray with you. It's not just us doing it. Wednesday night Bible studies, they are on pause for the summer. But we will get back to them after the summer goes. So just remember, if you show up here Wednesday, you're not getting in. Good luck. New members. One of the best things about the body is when we get to see it grow, right? Through baptisms, through memberships. And so we have these new members coming. And what a great time. Sunday, July 7th, we are going to do Ice Cream Social. So for all the iPhone users that seen 120 going into those weeks, ice cream is the best time for the heat, right? Come celebrate your brothers and sisters who want to be a part of the body, who want to serve and look like Jesus. It's an amazing time. Testimony is just great. Youth group. Youth group is on pause, but we do have, right now, after all this is said and done, the youth is over here. They'll be there for the end of the service. Tonight they're doing Sky Zone, $15 per person. You can ask TJ about it. A lot of energy is going to be let out on them. And then they are doing camp coming up as well, July. I'll tell you, being an individual who was able to be sponsored to go to a mission trip and accept Jesus there, if you can help, please help. I can't tell you the big impact that it really has. All right, our scuba is coming July 15th. It's for our children. It's our way to love back on them, right? They are the future. We need to love on them. There is a meeting next Sunday after service, so please be a part of that. There's a list in the back, if you can pick it up. And please, please, please support where you can. Invite someone, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, neighborhood kids, whoever it is. It's just about us loving them so they see Jesus through us. Stay connected. I can't talk about this one enough right now. In the front, we have a bulletin. And on the bulletin, there's this part that says connection card, right? We want to pray for you. We want to be a part of you. We want to help where we can. We want to support each other. There's also a QR code right here. All you got to do is open your phone, click on it. It'll give you right to the link. So if you're someone that doesn't want all the paper, you can do that. But it'll keep you informed instantly. It also has all the other things we're talking about right now. So please take it with you. And here's my challenge on this one. Pray about these. A lot of times we pick up these and we say, oh yeah, I see these things are happening. It doesn't really affect me. If we're trying to look like God, that means we're trying to serve, right? Look at them, pray about them, have God open your heart, your eyes, and see where we can serve. Ways to give. You know, you hear Lee every week, and I'm very similar. My approach to giving is very simple. It's a heart condition, right? It's between you and God. It's not between me, you, and everyone else. It's between you and God. It's not about how much you give. It's the fact that you're trying to look like Him and you're trying to give to support and help someone else. Most of the times when we give, we don't really see where that money goes. We see a building, we see electricity, but we don't see the impact of lives changed. But I can tell you they change. And that's why we're here. So it's a heart condition. Because He gave and served, we're able to do the same to look more like Him. And I believe that was the last of them. So I'm going to pray real fast, and then we're going to do our little 5-minute meeting, coffee, hang out, talk to people, meet them. If you haven't seen them, just say hi. It's really important in the body here that we just do that, all right? Father God, thank you so much, Lord, for loving us and blessing us and giving us this opportunity, Lord, to look more like you, to put us in a room of individuals that are different from many different areas, but that we can gather and just know that we're here to worship you, love you, and then love on each other. That we get to be a body here at Fresno First that really is built on come as you are. We're not asking you to not be who you are. Come with your faults. It's a no-judge zone, and it's just about loving and praying and looking like you, Father. So thank you for helping us create that. And then prepare our hearts as our friend comes up and preaches here in a little bit. We appreciate Andrew once again for coming and being an extension of the body here with Fresno First. And so just give him the courage, Lord, to speak for you and give us the ears and the capability of just hearing you, Father. We love you. We thank you. Amen. All right. 5 minutes coffee. Say hi to everybody.
All right. Is this on? Oh, wow. I figured the mic out, so I think we can continue. Good morning. My name is Andrew. I'm the creative pastor at Sierra Pines Church. How many of you know who I am? A handful. Cool. Yeah. So we're related. This is my church-in-law. My wife, Sarah, she grew up here. You might recognize her maiden name, Tapney. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. So I am Sarah Tapney's husband. And I am on. The countdown. Sorry. The mic's on, right, guys? Cool. Now is the whole, yeah. So I got asked to come down and preach today, and I don't think there's a place I'd rather be more than here today. Yeah. Isn't that cool? And I really, really like my church, so it's hard to drag me away from my own church. So God bless you guys. So today I'm going to talk about spirit and truth, true worshipers. That sounds exciting, right? We did just worship, didn't we? It was beautiful. And on a Sunday morning, I drove through town, and there's a lot of activity out there. There's a lot of people doing a lot of different things, but very few of them are going to church this morning. You guys are here, and I believe you're here because you're seeking something, right? Yeah. We're here because we're seeking something. And so I commend you guys for being here on a Sunday morning in a world with so many other things to do. So since we're here, let's talk about spirit, and let's talk about truth, and let's talk about worship. If you have a Bible, you can turn with me to John chapter 4, and I'll be reading verse 21 through 24. It won't be up on the screen. The rest of the verses will, though. So Jesus, he traveled a lot. Did you guys know that? He put a lot of miles. He got a lot of steps in during the day. And in his travels, he's going through a section of the north, which is it's Samaritan land. It's where a group of people called the Samaritans live. And this may be a familiar story, but during his travels, Jesus was tired from his journey, so he sat down by a well. It was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone on into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews did not associate with Samaritans. Do you know people who don't associate? We got a whole world full of people now who don't associate, right? They asked, there was something that popped up on the internet recently, and it was a kind of a controversy and a conversation. They asked women, they said, "Hey, if you were in the woods alone, would you rather run into a man or into a bear?" And men got their feelings hurt, and bears have never been doing so well. They're really popular right now. And there is this idea of, a bear can just be savage, right? A human can be cruel. And so you have this situation at this well, and let's try to draw the picture in our mind where there's a term on the streets from opponent, and it means ops, like where you see the person who you don't associate with, right? Maybe it's a political opponent. Maybe they got this bumper stickers on the car, or maybe they're wearing the MAGA hat, or maybe they're wearing the mask while they're driving the Prius down the road, and you know who they are, right? Because we're signaling all the time our associations. But for the Samaritan woman, she sees somebody who she does not want to talk to, based on his appearance and his association. So the first thing we got to realize is sometimes when God is speaking to us, it's not going to be by the means and by the people we think that he's going to speak to us through. And the first thing here is we need to have an open mind and an open heart to people, right? Yeah. The world has already got enough hate, got enough division in it. So he asked her for some water. She's like, why would you ask me? You know, like, that we don't get along, right? And he tells her this. He says, hey, if you knew the gift of the Father and who it is that asked you for a drink of water, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. We're having a conversation about resources right now. Jesus shows up at the well. They're hungry. They're tired. The disciples go on ahead to get some food. And he's asking her for something physical, right? He's asking for a material, to have a material need met. Hey, can I have a drink of water? And she pushed back. Like, has anybody ever asked you to do something you just don't want to do, but you can do? All the time. You know you can do it, you just don't want to do it. Or maybe it's just me. I might be the only one that does that. So she can give him water. She can help him out. There's no reason she can't meet his physical needs right now. But really, he wants to have a conversation about spiritual needs. Isn't that cool? He would meet a woman who is estranged from her community at noon. Is it warm outside at noon? See, people didn't go to draw water in the middle of the day. We don't water our gardens in the middle of the day. We don't do a lot of things in the middle of the day because it's hot and it's dry here. Same thing there. The reason she was going out during the middle of the day was because she had had a rocky past and she was estranged and she had shame that was projected onto her from her community and from internally. She had to go out when the other women didn't go out. She had to go alone because she wasn't accepted. But who meets her there? Jesus. Isn't that cool that he does that? And he meets her there, and he meets her there with the ability to meet her needs and to satisfy her. So he flips the conversation around because Jesus is an Eastern teacher, and Eastern teachers really, really, really like parables and riddles. They really do. Because they want you in your mental faculties to think. Not just to be told what to believe, but to discover, to know. So Jesus says this, he says, everyone who drinks this water again will be thirsty, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst again. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. It's progressive, it starts, right? Have you guys had that start in your life? Have you received the Holy Spirit? Have you been born again? Are you a new creation? Right? Do we remember this? I love it. Okay, so we have this verse. This will come up. This is John chapter 4. Now this is, oh my goodness. I think I gave you the wrong verses in the beginning, so don't worry. This is John chapter 4, 21 through 24. So this is the response from the woman to Jesus. She says, Sir, you ever been sirred? You ever asked something that someone just has to look at you and go, Sir, I'm going to need you to step out of line. She goes, but in this case, she goes, I see you're a prophet. You see, the thing about Jesus is Jesus knows you. And when Jesus meets you, he's going to let you know that he knows you. And he told her some things about her life, and he told her some things about her past that she would not lead out with normally. Right? Who wants to put that they have had 4 to 5 husbands on Instagram? Right? She might post a cake later that day she made, but she's not posting her real life. She's posting maybe the best parts of it because we do this. So she's not, when I say posting, she's not leading out with this information, but Jesus knows it about her and he calls it out in her. And she goes, okay, sir, all right. I see you're a prophet. You ever gotten this way with God? You're like, okay, I see you're doing something here. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews say that the place to worship is in Jerusalem. Jesus told her, believe me, woman, an hour is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you don't know. We worship what we do know because salvation is from the Jews. But an hour is coming and is now here when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. Yes, the Father wants such people to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth. Jesus is the equivalent of being out on the streets here right now in this story. He's in the highways and the byways. He's there where the desolate are walking. And he doesn't go into the cities. He doesn't go into the synagogues. He doesn't proclaim to the principalities and the rulers, the authorities in that region that God is looking for them to worship him. He tells her that God is looking for worshipers. He tells the broken and the hurting that maybe there's something that she's missing in life, and she knows it, that he could help her with. Spirit and truth. You see, we have a problem. We have an information problem in today's age. We have more information coming at us on a regular basis than anybody has ever had to deal with in their lifetime, and then most of the information isn't even right. We're bombarded with negativity in the form of information from the world around us. And it does so in some ways purposely so that we will be dissatisfied with our lives and that we will seek comfort in things that don't satisfy, which can then be monetized. You ever need to spend a little money to feel good? I do, sometimes. But we're the byproduct of the world that we live in, and the misinformation we receive is a dissatisfaction that we are trying to satisfy ourselves. Because we are unable to see the truth in the fog of the world. And I'm not saying us necessarily in general, but as humans, we're locked up in a lie. And it's only Jesus that can release us from that. And that's the truth that he brings. The person of Jesus Christ is your salvation. It's not information. It's not it's not passing the theological quiz before you get into heaven. Because then only your pastor would go. Right? It's more than that. And it's the person of Jesus Christ that is truth. So to understand how the divide between the Samaritans and the Jewish people, how that division happened, we're going to give you just a fast little history lesson. So the thing about true worship is true worship starts with true desire. Right? True love starts with actually loving somebody, doesn't it? Yeah. True worship starts with true desire. Let me give you an example of this. This is King David. He writes this in Psalms 27:4. He says, I have asked one thing from the Lord. It is what I desire, to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, gazing on the beauty of the Lord and seeking him in his temple. He wanted to be before God. And he wanted to learn who he was all the days of his life. And that was the other person that God saw out there by themselves, walking around, doing the things and worshiping that wasn't noticed by the world. And he plucked a little shepherd up, and he made him a great and a mighty king because of his heart. And his heart didn't change. Now, it faltered. You know, he was human and he made some grievous, horrible mistakes. But as a person and as a pursuit and as a life, he went after God. It's true worship. It's a singular vision. This one thing I ask, this one thing I desire. Contrast that with the divided heart that leads to divided worship. This is his song, King Solomon. Anybody ever heard of King Solomon? Right? What do we know? We know all the good things about him, right? Was he the richest man that ever lived? You know, he was the wisest. He ruled over Israel during its golden age. He built the temple of the Lord. See, David wanted something that wasn't even fully realized until his son built the temple. David had to go to the tabernacle to worship. The temple hadn't been built. And he says, this is what I desire. This is what I want to do. I want to build the Lord a house. And the Lord told David, he said, hey, you're not the one to do it. It's going to be your son. So all these blessings, everything that God had promised the people when they came into the land and before they got there, was realized in some capacity in Solomon's kingdom, to where there was vassal states. There were nations and cities that weren't Israelite, but they were in that area and they were ruled by the Israelites. It was the greatest the kingdom had ever been and probably ever will be until the Lord returns. But Solomon's heart gets turned away. For Solomon was old with his wives. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not wholly true to the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. Do you see that? It wasn't wholly true. There was some of it. Some of it that saw God's glory, saw the anointing fall in the temple, heard God's voice, received the blessings. There was some of it, but it wasn't wholly turned to the Lord. And that part that wasn't wholly turned to the Lord really, really had a thing for, let's just say it. He had 700 wives of noble birth. I have one wife, and I'm grateful for her. And I think she would say that's enough husband for her, and I think I'd say that's enough wife for me. And there was politics involved, but I think that he really became enamored with these women and with their religion and with their practices. So he builds the temple of the Lord. He does do that, but then he also continues on in the construction projects. And he probably shouldn't have, and I know he shouldn't have. Solomon brings idol worship back to Israel. So David, his father, had done a very good job of cleansing Israel from idol worship, bringing the center of worship and of attention for the people to their God Yahweh. And that environment that Solomon was brought up in, now these foreign gods and these foreign princesses and those of noble birth, they bring in their religion back into the nation. So as the king goes, so does the country. Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the detestable god of Moab, and for Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. He did the same for all his foreign wives who burned incense and offerings, sacrifices to their gods. There are things that will creep into our lives that will lead us away from God. Can we all agree to that? Right? We can agree to that. And those things we need to watch out for. I think that we working on this, but I think we try to tame the flesh instead of just killing it. I think we try to smooth out the edges a little bit, but keep some of that fun and some of that excitement as we see it, and some of that edge. But it's a really bad model. And it's been projected on us as, you can be this thing and this thing and this thing, and you can also be this thing too, which is obedient to God. And you can't be all of those things. You can serve God or you can serve money, but you can't serve both, right? Yeah. Doesn't mean money's evil, but I'll tell you what, it will creep in your heart real fast. It will whisper in your ear, hey, I know you can make a little more. But when it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, it's bad. And then you're still subject to that master. And then eventually, it's going to go away, and then what did you live your life for? It is getting our divided hearts and realizing that there's division there, and then saying, okay, what I need is a singular vision. Because division is what destroys a nation, as we're going to find out. It's what destroys a church, but it's also what destroys a life. Division will destroy your life. And it's called cognitive dissonance. It's holding competing ideas in your mind as both being true, and then trying to live in the tension between those two opposing ideas. And within that tension, you get ripped apart. Where do you think stress comes from? If we had a singular vision, and if we were just following and doing what God told us and what God showed us to do, life would be a lot easier. That's the still waters he leads us beside. Work's not a curse, and we don't stop working. It's just that we realize that there's a part of our lives that we want to direct and we want to run with, and that has nothing to do with God's will. And taking that part of our life, identifying and knowing what it is, and I'll tell you how to know what it is. It's what drove you nuts the last time you got upset. It's what really made you mad. And maybe you don't want to think about it right now, but in that tension, you'll find there's something you're trying to control and that your will is trying to be projected. And that's a lot to get from building temples, but that's what happens. We take control of our lives with our own visions and our own plans, and we deviate from God's purposes. And as Christians, this is a way that we can have a divided life. So, King David has a son. He has a son, King Solomon. King Solomon's heart is divided, even though he does great things. David delights in the Lord's presence. David unites the kingdom. David is commits the kingdom to worshiping the one true God. And he raises up a son who builds God's temple. That's one king. That's one generation. Let's go to the next. King Solomon builds the Lord's temple, brings the kingdom prosperity, strays from God's commands, and breaks God's laws through idolatry, and also through marrying outside of the kingdom. Because the thing about God's people, the thing about what he was doing in the land, is that he was setting them apart. They were not to be influenced from outside nations. They were not to be influenced from all the pagan religions around them. Instead, they were to have their own religion and to have their own group of people, to have their own priests, and worship the one true God in a true and in a real fashion, so that the world around them would see the light that they are. And what we do is we import the world into the light, and we call it a program. And we try to make it work, and that's what he did. So he normalized idolatry worship, and there's another thing that's not on your slides, also forced labor. He normalized forced labor. So all of these temples and all of these things that he built, all the stuff God told him not to do, but he did anyway because that was what he wanted to do, his wealth came at the expense of others. His palaces came at broken backs and death and starvation and brutal treatment of other people. You don't want a palace made on that, I promise. And So the people, they're getting tired of King Solomon, but he's too powerful, and he has a son. He has a son named King Rehoboam, not to be confused with Jeroboam, who's also in the story. But King Rehoboam takes over pretty effortlessly after his father. But what happens is that a council is called. A labor meeting is being held. So he's doing forced labor issues, and all the tribes get together, and they want to call a labor meeting, basically. They say, hey, the last boss was kind of a jerk. He's kind of a jerk. He's making us work, and we'd like some weekends off. We'd like some holiday hours. We'd like some vacation pay. Like, can we get a little bit better situation here under you, Rehoboam? And Rehoboam was given the counsel by the wise older men who worked for his father, and probably the counsel that his father didn't listen to either. They told him, they said, hey, serve the people today, and they will serve you as king. And what it says is, give them some justice and some reprieve from the stress and the labor and the work your fathers put them under. Serve them today by bringing them relief, by bringing them resources that will refresh them. They said, no, we're not going to do that. See, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be meaner than my dad. I'm going to tell them, hey, if you thought my dad was bad with whips, I'm going to tie nails onto the end of those whips, and I'm going to beat you with those. Now, the problem with a bad labor meeting, when you have a team, and you come in and then you lay down the law, and you're like, this is how it's going to be from now on. I've been in a few of those meetings. I came out of corporate America. The employees can quit. They can just quit. You ever seen a team quit? Gone into work one day, there's 5, 6, 10 people there working, and then all of a sudden they all quit? Well, that's what happened to King Rehoboam. 10 of the 12 tribes packed up, and they said, you know what? Worry about yourselves, we're leaving. And they set up their own kingdom in the north, and that caused a division between the worshipers of Yahweh that Jesus is addressing with the women on the well. So what happened is the kingdom was united under David, and under Rehoboam, it says here in 2 Chronicles, he did evil because he prepared not his heart to seek the Lord. And because of that, within 3 generations, this is the important part to get, the kingdom went from having division to having its greatest, its golden age, to being divided in 3 generations. How many generations does it take us to lose a church? How many generations does it take for us to see our grandchildren or maybe our great-grandchildren not believe anymore? We need a singular focus. We need to pursue God's will. Because that division that is in our hearts, if we let it rule, doesn't just affect us. It affects the next and the next generation. I could tell you more about Rehoboam and Jeroboam and all those kinds of things. But I think that's a good example of what happened. So we have 2 kingdoms now. We have one in the south and one in the north. And out of the kingdoms in the north, so think of like South Korea, right? South and North Korea, you see how that's divided, very clearly divided. So you got a rule in the north, you got parliament, legislation in the south. Really, Samsung runs the whole country, honestly. It's true, I worked for them. But it's divided, like Korea is Korea, right? But Korea is also divided. So in the south, out of 20 kings, all but 6 are recorded as doing, so out of 20 kings, all but 6 are recorded as doing evil. So only 6 kings did good out of those 20. And in the north, it's even worse. All but 1 king is recorded as being good. The rest doing evil in the eyes of the Lord. So that divided kingdom didn't get any better. And what actually ended up happening in the north, where the woman at the well is from, is that they enacted idol worship just so that the people in the northern kingdoms wouldn't go to the south to worship Yahweh. Because part of the power structure in those communities and in those times and in those cities were the temples. So Jeroboam, who ends up being the king in the north, not to be confused with Rehoboam, who is the son of Solomon, who lost the kingdom, he goes in to making golden calf business again. And he makes two of them. And he says, hey, by the way, yeah, these are the gods that led you out of Israel. Worship them. And now we have divided worship among God's people. And Jesus says, hey, there'll be a time where it's not on this mountain and it's not on this mountain anymore. Doesn't matter. That debate, that argument that you guys have is coming to an end because it's truth and it's spirit and it's power. You guys believe it's power? I do. Like the woman in the well, one day I woke up and I was not a good person because I hadn't been a good person because I just wasn't a good person because that's how I lived my life. That night I went to bed knowing the person of Jesus Christ. And I have had a bumpy road since then. And it hasn't been easy because that well is springing up inside of me and it's growing. I've never been that person again. There is power to transform and there's power to change us. And there's also power for us to walk in. And that's the spirit and that's the truth. Do we think about walking in power? So, both the northern and the southern go into exile. One goes into Babylon, the other one goes into Syria. People are allowed to go back and land division in the land that the people return about who's the real worship of Yahweh. And the problem with division is it hinders the worship of God's people. This will affect the power we can walk in. Right here, these 4 points. These are actually just 4 steps. The returning Jews refused to let the Samaritans help rebuild the temple. Let's not decide who gets to worship. If they say they love Jesus, right? The Jews were concerned about keeping lineages and things like that, and they accused the Samaritans of not being full Jews or not even being Jewish. Because the Assyrians took people out of the land, put other people in the land, and then mixed things up and allowed people to return. So then what happened is because they were refused, they lobbied to stop the building of the temple. They came and said, hey, can we help? And then they were refused. And so now they become the enemy. The Samaritans and the Jews condemned each other for worshiping on the wrong mountain. Do we ever condemn each other for worshiping? Is it full immersion? Is it sprinkling? Is it Calvinism, Arminianism? Is it Orthodox Roman Catholicism? Is it something else? You know, we really like our dividing points. You know, we all agree on the same thing. We all agree in many cases that Jesus is God. And that he's God eternal, and he's always been God eternal. We believe in the Trinity. All of these different traditions I mentioned. But then we find divisive points to separate over, or people take control of something, and their heart's on the right place, and they lead it astray, and other people have to say, hey, this is evil, we need to go. But all of it's division. And all of it has to do with condemnation. When it comes to our hearts and when it comes to our relationship with Jesus, I guarantee you, God is more kind and more gracious than the church historically has been. He is more kind and he is more gracious than the church historically has been because there's no division in God. And the community that we've been invited into through the Son, Jesus Christ, through the incarnation, through his work on the cross, through his atonement, through his blood that washes us through of our sins, and through his Holy Spirit that makes us a new creation. Through all of that, there's no division, there's only love and grace. So we are the people of grace. And you know what grace doesn't like? doesn't like to argue, doesn't like to fight. It doesn't have to have its own way. And then finally, one of the kings that was in the southern kingdom after they returned, after the Maccabees, sorry, it was a high priest, not a king, and a prince. Yeah, so they did the whole, there was a point where the prince in Jerusalem under the Maccabees was also the high priest for a while. They weren't supposed to do that. This guy wasn't coming from the right place. But they destroy the Samaritan temple eventually. That's the kind of opposition that they had against each other. That they went and destroyed the temple. You know, historically, most of the religious wars with Christians have been against other Christians. We have a history of killing ourselves, which is ironic because our God was killed unjustly. So it's ironic for us to participate in anything like that. But we did because of division. It's the thing that we need to be careful of. All right. So the thing about Jesus is he reveals the truth about God. The woman said, I know that the Messiah called Christ is coming, and when he comes, he will explain everything to us. Do you know Jesus? You know him, right? He's in your heart? Yeah. He's there, isn't he? How much time do you spend with him? How much time? We know he's there. You know, I like to say, if you don't know where Jesus is, just go back to where you left him. Just go back to where you left him. He is truth. You get to know who he is. You start reading the scriptures. You start reading his word. The Spirit of God starts inspiring you. He'll preach to you. He will teach you. He will guide you. He's been doing it. But how often do we knowingly participate in it? How often do we set aside time, or do we just give our whole day and say, it doesn't matter where I go and what I do today. You have ordained it before the foundation of the earth, and every appointment and every person I have in front of me, you already know about. So I'm going to walk with you in this day. Wake up and just say, I'm showing up for duty. I'm here for work. Every day, doesn't matter what you're doing. It will change your attitude. It will help your vision become more singular on him, because he is the truth. Outside of Christ, we're doomed. We don't even know what to do. We don't. We will try a lot of things, though. Okay, this is my last slide. God is seeking out worshipers. I mentioned before, he didn't go to the elites. He didn't go to the temples. He didn't go to the rich. He didn't go to the places where things were happening in culture and society. You know, he didn't go to the mayor's office. He went to a well and he met a woman whose life was a mess. And he told her, I'm looking for worshipers. He's telling us, I'm looking for worshipers. Paul said, not many of you were wise. Not many of you were smart. It's right. And what he means by it is saying, like, God is taking broken people and he's fixing them. Would you like to join along? Because participation, your willingness to participate, is going to rocket you into a relationship with God that you're fighting otherwise, because your will wants something different. God's looking for worshipers. I'm going to read this verse and then we'll close. But he said to them, I have food to eat that you don't know about. This is after his disciples return. So the disciples were saying to one another, no one brought him anything to eat, did he? Jesus said to them, my food is to do the will of him who sent me and to accomplish his work. Do you not say, there are yet 4 months and then comes the harvest? Behold, I say to you, lift up your eyes and look in the fields, that they are ripe for harvest. We historically have used this verse to talk about the very true reality that there are people in the world that are lost and they're waiting for somebody to reach out to them. They're waiting for somebody to come and to share the gospel with them. And that is very, very true. But I want you to notice something here that's a little weird. I have food to eat that you do not know about. Jesus was hungry and he was thirsty when he showed up. After this encounter, he wasn't hungry. I'll let you do with that what you will. But what I will say is there is power in doing the Lord's will. There's power. And maybe we just need to open our eyes and look on the fields. Are we about our Father's business? Because I think the finding of the power is in the doing of the will. So, thank you.
that he should give his only son to make a wretch his treasure. How great the pain of searing loss! The Father turns his face away as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon a cross, my sin upon his shoulders. Ashamed, I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything, no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, his death and resurrection. Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart: his wounds have paid my ransom. But this I know with all my heart: his wounds have paid my ransom.
Well, again, I am grateful for Andrew Osley coming and preaching for this, and he really scrambled this week to make that work for us, so we're grateful to him. Well, because of God's grace that has called us to worship, that has called us to worship him in spirit and in truth, he enables us to love him, to love people, to live it out. So don't want you to forget, next week on July 7th, we are going to be welcoming our new members. We have 15 new members. We're going to be having an ice cream sort of social right after the service is over. We just hope you guys will be there. And if you're looking to help, there's still a couple of ways you can help. So you can connect with Gwen or with my wife, Nikki, if you want to sort of help out in that way. So we are grateful. So who are we? Fresno First. God has empowered us to do what? To love God, love people, and live it out. All right. Happy 4th of July. Be safe if you're traveling. We love you, and we'll see you next week.